එදිනෙදා ඔබේ මුළු සිරුරටම රැකවරණයක්. සුදේශී කොඹ සබන්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50 අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, playing it safe. The government announces island-wide curfew from 8 p.m. tomorrow until 5 a.m. on Tuesday. A fundamental right. The Supreme Court informed that health authorities see no risk in holding parliamentary elections. Fake news alert. Consumer Affairs Authority rubbishes social media rumours of gas price hike. Disaster strikes. Pakistan International Airlines flight crashes with 107 on board. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Friday the 22nd of May 2020.
SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Humpin. Let's start with your local stories. Now, the Lanka Indian Oil Company has backtracked on its recent price hike of octane 92 petrol with effect from midnight. On Sunday, Lanka IOC increased the price of a litre of octane 92 petrol by 5 rupees to 142 rupees. The move was met with backlash, and the government insisted that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will not be hiking prices. Following tonight's amendment, a litre of Lanka IOC octane 92 petrol will be sold at 137 rupees on par with Sipetco prices. Now, the entire country will be under curfew during the coming Sunday and Monday. The President's Media Division announced today that an island-wide curfew will be in effect from 8 p.m. tomorrow until 5 a.m. on Tuesday next week. Hence, no civilian movements other than for essential matters will be allowed across the country. With Islamic communities set to end the month of Ramadan either on Sunday or Monday, they are requested to celebrate Eid al-Fitr at home in view of the pandemic situation in the country, just as it was with the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, the Vesak festival, as well as the Easter Sunday.
The President's Media Division has announced that island-wide curfew is to be imposed on the 24th and 25th of May. The announcement adds that in districts other than Colombo and Gampaha, where curfew remains in place until further notice, the curfew will begin at 8 p.m. on Saturday the 23rd of May and will be lifted again at 5 a.m. on Tuesday the 26th of May. After the lifting of the curfew, the 23 districts will resume the daily 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. The PMD states that the program commenced to resume public life in Colombo and Gampaha while curfew is in force, will continue throughout tomorrow and will proceed from Tuesday onwards. It adds that the conditions specified in the previous announcement with regard to the implementation of the curfew will remain unchanged.
The Supreme Court today heard that the Director General of Health Services had sent a letter to the President's Secretary telling him that he sees no impediment to holding elections in the country. These developments came when the multiple fundamental rights petitions filed challenging the President's Gazette dissolving Parliament and election date were taken up for a fifth day. What's more, the Attorney General's Department also requested the court to dismiss all the petitions as it intends to file preliminary objections pertaining to all of them. The fundamental rights petitions challenging the President's Gazette notification dissolving the Parliament and the date set by the Election Commission for polls were once more taken up before the 5-member Supreme Court bench today for the 5th consecutive day. At the commencement of today's proceedings, President's Counsel Ramesh De Silva, appearing on behalf of President's Secretary Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, submitted a letter to the court which was sent by Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinghe to the President's Secretary. The President's Counsel told the court that Dr. Jasinghe has given written notification to the President's Secretary informing him that the election process can be moved forward hygienically as ascertained by tests conducted by health authorities across the island. He further emphasized that the Director General of Health Services had made evident via his letter that it is appropriate to gazette the relevant health regulations under the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance as part of the long-term disease prevention plan. President's Counsel De Silva added that the Director General of Health Services had mentioned in his letter that guidance can be provided to the Election Commission on taking the election process forward upon request. He went on to say that the Director General of Health Services has noted that he sees no impediment to holding elections in the country. Given that is the case, he questioned as to from which faction the Election Commission is still expecting a green light. He also made evident that despite the court had not ordered a suspension to election-related activities of the Commission until the petitions are heard, the Election Commission has in fact stopped all polls-related activities. In the meantime, Additional Solicitor General Indika Demuni De Silva made submissions on behalf of the Attorney General and the Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinghe. She told the court that the Attorney General will be filing preliminary objections pertaining to all fundamental rights petitions. As such, she requested from court to dismiss the petitions without hearing them. Filing the first preliminary objection, the Additional Solicitor General said that all the petitioners have come before court after the time period of a month illustrated in Article 126, subsection 2 of the Constitution had elapsed. She added that 304 political parties and 313 independent groups have submitted nominations and are expectant of contesting the election. She went on to say that in submitting these petitions, which indirectly request for the invalidation of nominations, they have not named a single political party or a secretary as parties to the petitions. The Additional Solicitor General also argued that a decision which directly impacts the validity of nominations pertaining to over 7,400 candidates cannot be given just at the request of the petitioners. Following the conclusion of today's proceedings, the consideration of petitions was postponed until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 26th of May. Now, with 16 more recoveries reported today, including 11 naval personnel, the country recorded its highest ever coronavirus recovery percentage of 58.54%. Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinghe believes that the number of COVID-19 infected naval personnel should begin reducing in the future. This statement comes as infections continue to be confirmed from within the Navy cluster that has so far been contained, while other cases restricted to personnel under quarantine.
Sri Lanka's recoveries rose to 620 today, after 16 patients were given the all-clear to return home after recovering from the feared COVID-19 virus. The recovery percentage also rose to 58.54%, marking the country's highest to date. With the confirmation of 27 fresh COVID-19 cases yesterday, and with the addition of 4 more today, Sri Lanka's number of active cases currently stands at 430. Among the 27 infections from yesterday are 11 naval personnel. From the rest, 15 are returnees from Dubai and are currently undergoing quarantine at the Giragama Quarantine Centre in Pilimatalawa is a returnee from Kuwait. In the meantime, the total naval personnel infected with COVID-19 rose to 600. From that figure, 250 have recovered from the virus so far, with 13 being discharged from hospital today.
මේ නාවික හමුදාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් ගත්තහම පවතින කඳුරු වලින් මහසෙන් කියන කඳුරේ තමයි වැඩි වශයෙන් රෝගීන් වාර්තා වන්නේ. මේ දිනවල වැඩියෙන් වාර්තා වන්නට හේතුව මේ වැඩි සැක සහිත අය බලලා තමයි මෙම PCR පරීක්ෂණ කරනු ලබන්නේ. මේ අනුව ඉදිරියේදී නාවික හමුදාවේ රෝගීන් ප්‍රමාණය අඩුවේ කියන බලාපොරොත්තුව අප තුල තිබෙනවා. ඒ වගේම මේ දක්වා මේ රෝගීන් සංඛ්‍යාව ගත්තහම මේකෙන් 100කට අධික ප්‍රමාණයක් විදේශයන්හි සිට පැමිණි අය බවට ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නට පුළුවන්.
කිසියම් ආකාරයක හෝ සමාජගත සම්ප්‍රේෂණයක් අපි මේ වන තෙක් දකින්නේ නැහැ. අපි මේ දිනවල දිගටම අහඹුන් න්‍යායදී ශාස්ත්‍රයේ ගනු ලබනවා. වැඩි අවදානම් කණ්ඩායම් කෙරෙහි මේ කටයුත්ත යොදවලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අයගේ අතරිනුත් ගන්නා ලද සාම්පල් වල අපිට කිසිදු ආසාදිතයක් වාර්තා වුණේ නැහැ. එය හොඳ තත්ත්වයක්.
Meanwhile, a woman who was admitted to the Colombo National Hospital yesterday after she had called for an ambulance upon developing symptoms of COVID-19 was released today after she tested negative for the virus. The woman had reportedly met with a man at a lodge in Homagama that had illegally operated. Investigations are currently underway to identify her companion. In the meantime, 280 Sri Lankan crew members aboard the ship Ida, which had set off from the port of Hamburg in Germany, seek repatriation to the island. They want the government to provide landing clearance for the flight carrying them at the expense of the relevant company.
කොරෝනා වෛරසයේ පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa met with officials of the Sri Lanka Transport Board yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat. During the meeting, the head of state has proposed a string of measures to turn the somewhat ailing public transport body into a revenue generator for the government.
The President urged the officials to work towards transforming the SLTB into a government entity that contributes to the national coffers rather than one that drains funds from the Treasury. The President also highlighted the need to implement a park and drive system that would reduce the usage of personal vehicles by office workers entering the city, which could reduce traffic congestion. In addition, the head of state also proposed a dedicated school bus service for children that could give priority to their safety and security, for which a color coding system must be implemented, with school buses painted yellow and given preference on roads. He also directed SLTB officials to implement new strategies to motivate employees, which could lead to a minimizing of wastage and bring an end to corruption. Further, the President also proposed the utilizing of the SLTB's 4,500 plus skilled mechanics for the carrying out of external maintenance work and the utilization of SLTB real estate. President Gotabaya also called for short, mid and long-term strategies to move forward with these proposals.
Now, Super Cyclone Humpin hit India and Bangladesh yesterday, causing severe damage, with the Indian state of West Bengal the worst hit, as 72 deaths were reported. Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, showers are predicted over several places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central and northwestern provinces, with wind speeds reaching 40 kilometers per hour. In the meantime, residents in Ratnapura, Kandy, Matale, Kegol, Nuwara, Galle and Kurunegala have been warned to be watchful for signs of landslides.
The Department of Meteorology states that although Sri Lanka may have been saved from the impact of Super Cyclone Humpin, showers can still be expected in the southwestern part of the island today. The department also said that showers will occur over several places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central and northwestern provinces. Showers or thunder showers are also expected to occur in some areas of the Uva province after 2 p.m, with wind speeds also expected to increase up to 40 kilometers per hour at times over the island.
මධ්‍යම කඳුකරේ බටහිර බැවුම් පැත්තයි කළුතර රත්නපුර ගාල්ල මාතර ඒ වගේ පළාත්වල සමහර ස්ථානවල මිලිමීටර් 75ත් 100ත් අතර මට්ටමේ වර්ෂාපතන ලැබීමේ හැකියාවක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. ගාල්ල හරහා පොතුවිල් දක්වා තියෙන වෙරළබඩ තීරයත් මන්නාරමේ ඉඳන් කංකසන්තුරේ හරහා තිරුකුණාමලේ දක්වා තියෙන වෙරළබඩ තීරවලත් තුලන් තත්ත්වයේ වේගය පැයට කිලෝමීටර් 50-60 දක්වා ඉහළ යෑමේ තත්ත්වයන් තියෙනවා. වැසිස් සමග මේ තත්ත්වයේ 60-70 දක්වා ඉහළ යෑමේ තත්ත්වයන් තියෙනවා. මුහුද රළු වීමේ හැකියාවක් තියෙනවා. දීවර ජනතාවට තවදුරටත් අපි පැහැදිලි කරනවා මෙවැනි අවදානමකුත් තියෙනවා කියන එක. හෙට දිනේ නිද්දික් කොටසේ වැතිසත්තේ අඩුවීමක් අපි අපේක්ෂා කරනවා.
In the meantime, the National Building Research Organisation extended landslide warnings issued for the districts of Ratnapura, Kandy, Matale, Kegol, Nuwara, Galle and Kurunegala.
At present, we receive less rainfall, but there are some saturated areas with fast rainfall. With that, we removed some areas and consider all these factors. India has extended the landslide early in the message up to 2:30 p.m. on tomorrow. Accordingly, we have already issued level 3 warning to business secretaries in Ratnapura district. Then tomorrow we will consider if it is extended or not.
Meanwhile, Cyclone Humpin, which blew through the Bay of Bengal, entered India and Bangladesh last afternoon with speeds of 115 kilometers per hour. The area worst impacted by the storm was the state of West Bengal in India, which saw 72 fatalities.
We will see you shortly after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday terror attacks heard evidence yesterday as well as today on the Kingsbury Hotel bombing incident. The Commission was provided detailed evidence on the movements of bomber Mohammed Azam Mohammed Mubarak on the day prior to the attacks as he checked into this hotel room, which had been booked 3 days before the 17th of April 2019.
The Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday attacks heard evidence from the Director of Security at the Kingsbury Hotel, retired DIG Dhammika Tudubawatta, yesterday. The witness told the Commission that a person who arrived at the hotel on April 17, 2019 had booked room number 819 under the name of Abdullah for the 20th of April and had left the premises saying he would return on that date. The Commission inquired from the witness whether a method of random checks of guests was in place at the time of the attack. The witness responded that as the country was enjoying a period of peace, there was no such system in place at the time. Following this, the Commission summoned OIC of the Crime Branch, the Slave Island Police, Inspector AMNI Gunasekara, to record evidence. Attorney-at-Law Shamil Pereira, representing the Archbishop of Colombo, asked the witness whether a former MP was found to have been involved during the discovery of 46 swords in a mosque in the area of Slave Island in the days following the attack. The witness stated that Tajuddin Mohammed, a former member of the Colombo Municipal Council who had been arrested for delivering the swords to the Maulavi of the mosque, had been found to have had close links with former MP Mujibur Rahman. However, the witness added that the former MP had made no attempts to influence him with regards to the incident. With proceedings having concluded last evening, the sessions recommenced this morning with evidence being recorded from Chief Inspector of Police Yasas Kirithisinger of the Criminal Investigation Department, who oversaw the initial investigations at the Kingsbury Hotel following the explosions. He told the Commission that the bombing suspect, Mohammad Azam Mohammad Mubarak, was identified following an examination of the hotel's CCTV footage. The witness added that the suspect had arrived at the hotel in a red car the night before the attack and presented the relevant CCTV footage to the Commission. The witness pointed out that the CCTV footage shows the bomber arriving at the hotel and approaching the hotel's reception desk to make inquiries from a specific angle with the intention of shielding himself from the hotel's CCTV cameras. When asked whether the bomber could have had explosives on him at the time, the witness responded that due to the bomber not having been checked at the time, the possibility of the bomber carrying explosive was high. The Commission was told that the bomber had then proceeded to his room on the 8th floor. When the witness was asked as to when the bomber exited his room, he responded that the suspect had left the hotel at 8:59 p.m. carrying a different bag to the one he checked in with. The suspect had then proceeded towards Goldface Green, where he hailed a taxi in which he travelled to a supermarket in Kolonava at around 9:25 p.m. The witness revealed that after purchasing some food items from the supermarket, the suspect had then visited his family living in a rented house at Jayanti Mawatha in the area. It was also revealed that the bomber had previously resided at rented houses in Grand Pass, Panadura, Matakulia and Dematagoda. The suspect had then returned to the Kingsbury Hotel carrying a black bag after spending 1.5 hours with his family. When asked by the Commission if the bomber was seen to have been wearing a hands-free device and constantly received phone calls, the witness replied that the bomber had received a phone call from a taxi company regarding a lorry rental. When asked by the Commission whether the bomber had purchased houses and vehicles for his accomplices, the witness stated that it had been revealed that the bomber had rented a van and a safe house in Panadura. The Commission then inquired as to where the bomber had sourced funds for these purposes, to which the witness revealed that the suspect had a total of 32 bank accounts in his name, for which investigations are currently underway to determine these facts. The witness also revealed that the suspect had previously operated a footwear shop, amassing heavy debt, and had also gone into hiding since the year 2018 due to this. When asked how the bomber had first come into contact with Zaran Hashim, the witness replied that the suspect had worked as his van driver for some time. The witness also testified that the bomber had used 14 telephone numbers since 2010 and 11 SIM cards had been registered in his name. The witness revealed that the bomber had also had a hand in the incident involving the detonation of a motorcycle at Kathankudi.
The Consumer Affairs Authority refutes claims of plans to increase the price of a gas cylinder. Speculations were rife in social media that the price of a gas cylinder will be hiked by nearly 200 rupees. The Consumer Affairs Authority, however, affirms that such a price hike would not take place. The CAA went on to note that none of the gas companies has sought an increase in the price of a gas cylinder. The central bank's inflation report says that the headline inflation for the month of April 2020 has declined to 5.9% compared to 7% in March due to a decrease in prices of food category items. Furthermore, the monthly change in the National Consumer Price Index was recorded at minus 0.3% due to the same factors and driven by a continued seasonal supply of food crops. The central bank reports that headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the Nation Consumer Price Index, has decreased to 5.9% in April this year from 7% in March. The report attributes the decrease to a monthly decline in prices of food category items and the statistical effect of the high base that prevailed in the month. Further, food inflation declined to 12.2% from the month under review, from 14.1% in the month of March. Meanwhile, year-on-year non-food inflation also declined to 1.1% in April from 1.8% in March this year. The change in the NCPI measured on an annual average basis increased to 5.1% in April from 4.9% in March 2020. The monthly change in the NCPI recorded at minus 0.3% in April 2020 due to declines observed in prices of items in the food category, driven by the continued seasonal supply of food crops. Accordingly, within the food category, prices of vegetables, fruits, big onions and eggs declined during the month. Meanwhile, prices of items within the non-food category remained unchanged in April 2020, partly due to the lower demand of non-essential goods and services during the lockdown period with the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Further, year-on-year core inflation remained unchanged at 3.2% in April 2020, while annual average core inflation decreased to 5% in April from 5.2% in March this year. The S&P Global Ratings has downgraded Sri Lankan long-term foreign and local currency rating to B- with a stable outlook and has warned that the country faces a recession this year brought on by COVID-19 fiscal deterioration. Further, it added that in the short term, the country has sufficient external resources access to meet its debt obligations in the next 12 months, but warns that any change in this position could result in a further downgrade. However, the agency predicts growth to rebound to 4.6% next year, supported by expansionary fiscal and monetary settings, recovering external conditions, and resolution of political uncertainty if parliamentary elections are held later this year.
Ratings agency S&P Global Ratings has downgraded Sri Lanka's long-term foreign and local currency rating to B- with stable outlook from its previous B rating. The ratings agency also warned that the country faces a recession this year brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, of which the resulting fiscal deterioration remains the main reason for the downgrade. In its statement, S&P says that the stable outlook reflects its view that Sri Lanka still has access to sufficient resources, including multilateral and bilateral partners, that could help meet its debt obligations over the next 12 months. It added that a further downgrade could be likely if multilateral and bilateral support is not forthcoming and if external imbalances deteriorate beyond expectations, leading to a sustained decline in foreign exchange reserves, which could cast doubts over the country's ability to service its debts. In contrast, ratings could improve if any improvements are seen in fiscal and debt metrics. In its rating statement, S&P added that with the fiscal space already limited by the wide-ranging tax cuts announced at the end of last year, this deterioration will worsen the risk associated with Sri Lanka's government debt burden. It added that the new rating reflects the country's relatively modest income levels, weak external profile, sizable fiscal deficits, extremely high government indebtedness, and extremely large interest payment burdens. It also added that the temporary grinding to a halt of key contributors such as tourism and export sectors, along with current containment measures and continued curfew, could heavily impact domestic activity. However, it expects the economy to recover from next year onwards, barring any further shock. Further, the ratings agency also points to delays in holding parliamentary elections as a negative factor that further increases political uncertainty. S&P also forecast the Sri Lankan economy to contract by 0.3% in 2020, its lowest rate since the end of the civil war, while expecting the negative impact to peak from the second to the third quarter, with activity gradually normalizing towards the latter part of the year. The agency also expects growth to rebound to 4.6% in 2021 from a low base, and expects this to be supported by expansionary fiscal and monetary settings, recovering external conditions, and the resolution of political uncertainty following parliamentary elections later this year.
The central bank says that it cancelled the operating license of the non-bank lender, The Finance Company PLC, and it will be liquidated and smaller depositors compensated from a deposit insurance facility. It said that the Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance and Liquidity Support Scheme of the CBSL will take necessary actions to pay compensation to the insured depositors under the applicable laws and regulations, which would facilitate to settle 93% of the company's total depositors in full, which is 135,100 depositors out of 145,172 total depositors. It added that while each of the remaining 7% of depositors, which amounts to 10,072 depositors, will also receive 600,000 rupees as a part of their deposit amount, and the remaining balance may be able to recover in the process of liquidation subject to the priority of claims. Stocks closed at 0.32% higher today, with banks continuing to make gains. Colombo's main all-share price index climbed 15.09 points to 4,799.89. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks reported a drop of 2.66 points to close at 2,034.38. Let's now take a look at a brief report on today's market performance, followed by a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee performed during the day.
We saw a significant upward surge in the market today in the first few minutes of the market opening. After that, different to other days, we saw selling pressure coming back into the market with the profit taking that is taking place because of the significant upsurge in the market over the past few days. Afterwards, we saw a continuous downtrend in the market as the market came into negative territory. However, over the last half an hour or so, market recovered again to actually end positive for the day by being 15 points up. However, the S&P SL20 index, which is mainly backed by the blue chip liquid counter, was negative for the day. We saw some significant selling pressure in the banking counters, especially counters such as Commercial Bank, Sampath and HNB saw significant selling pressure compared to the start of the day. Foreign selling continued to be significantly high today as well, especially concentrating on HNB similar to yesterday. Going forward, we expect buying interest actually to come into the market as the market may have some profit take. If the market does come down, we expect the bargain hunters and the value seekers to come and buy into the market. So with that, we believe retailers and high net worth individuals on the local front to be very active in the market, absorbing any selling pressure that may come into the market.
We'll see you soon. Bear with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Our Pakistan international airplane with 99 passengers and 8 crew members crashed into a residential area of the city of Karachi today, with many feared dead. Smoke billowed at the scene where flight PK8303 came down, with some roofs caved in and debris scattered in the streets as ambulances rushed through chaotic crowds of people. A doctor at the nearby Jinnah hospital confirmed that there were at least 5 corpses from the crash, while a provincial health minister said that at least 11 have died. The jet, identified as a 15-year-old Airbus A320, was flying from the eastern city of Lahore to Karachi in the south, just as Pakistan was resuming domestic flights in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. One senior civil aviation official told media that it appeared that the plane was unable to open its wheels due to a technical fault prior to the landing, but it was too early to determine the cause. China today proposed new legislation for Hong Kong that requires the territory to quickly finish enacting national security regulations under its mini-constitution. Now, China's Parliamentary Vice Chairman Wang Cheng made a speech explaining the new law during the opening session of the National People's Congress. According to the legislation, China's parliament empowers itself to set up the legal framework and implementation mechanism to prevent and punish subversion, terrorism, separatism and foreign interference, or any act that severely endangers national security. Hong Kong's activists called for people to rise up against Beijing's plans to impose national security legislation in the city, prompting alarm that the new laws could erode its freedoms through force and fear. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.